No. It's the planet, stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet Stupid is eco-journalist Belinda Waymouth. Belinda, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you?
Yes, all of the above. I'm so well, Mark. How are you?
I'm well. I thought it was interesting. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. We mentioned it yesterday as well. All the smoke from the fires in Canada. And the cover of the New York Post is what we showed. And the cover of the New York Post a headline was "Blame Canada," and I thought, well, that's okay. That's where the fires are, but there it is. The actual cause of these fires, and we're certainly experienced with fires in California, and I think we're on the cutting edge of a lot of this climate crisis. But the climate crisis is what caused all of this, and I just wondered if you had the same thought. I feel like it's been ignored in every television broadcast I've seen. There is no discussion about the fact that this kind of thing is far more common now than it used to be.
Oh, yeah. And that's maddening. That's absolutely maddening. I mean, in Southern California, Texas, and New Mexico, the heating up planet means that we have an additional 2 months of fire weather in these 3 states than we did compared to what we experienced in 1970. And fire is absolutely a part of North American ecology. It's, happens naturally in our forests. We need to get rid of the fuels, the tinder, all that stuff. But to not link what's happening to climate, it's crazy. We're putting all this heat into the atmosphere, hotter temperatures, lower humidity, stronger winds. That makes fire season worse. And the other thing, there's so much heat. Yeah, look at it. I mean, this is, the fire weather days, and look what's happening on to the US, to all these states. It's absolutely crazy. And you can also see a few of them on the East Coast. And what they say on the East Coast is, there are 29 million homes that live in zones that are going to be more prone to fires. That's a lot of people. And what's happened in Canada because of these really high temperatures, the polar jet stream normally circulates. So we've got 2 of them. We've got one in the northern hemisphere, one in the southern. They go from east to west, and they circulate at about 60 degrees north in the northern hemisphere and 60 degrees south in southern hemisphere. And that's the barrier between the cool polar air and then the warmer air, that comes up from the equator. Well, there's so much warm air now that the polar jet stream has been pushed all the way up to the pole, all the way up to 90 degrees north. And to not link this to climate change and to sort of see the fingerprint of it, it's maddening. Because one of the things that I've really been thinking about, looking at these photographs, do you remember during COVID, we talked about how, air pollution sort of disappeared in all these cities. And, I showed you those pictures of New Delhi, where normally, you can see sort of, 100 feet in front of you, if you're really lucky, if the tree is there, you probably think you can see it, but you can't actually, because the air is so terrible. And during COVID, when everyone got out of their cars and off their motorbikes, suddenly the skies above Delhi cleared. And the thing about both of this is all combustion. Trees are full of carbon. So that's, carbon that's going into the atmosphere, just as it is when we're driving around in our cars and it's fossil fuels. And what people on the East Coast are experiencing is what billions of people in Asian cities experience every single day.
And I'm seeing this in the chat, sort of like, this is a...
that photo.
Yeah, that's wild, a Yankee Stadium. Large fires never happened before climate change, Mark. And I do believe in global warming. Calling it climate change is weak. I don't know what you...
No. Look, here's the thing. Of course, we had fires before. I just said, they're a natural part of the North American ecology. Yes, we've always had fires, but not to the extent. Now, look, there was a thing I just was reading about the province of Quebec. By June 6th, so that was Tuesday, there were 150 wildfires burning in Quebec. Now, that province usually, by June 6th, will see about 800 hectares of land destroyed by fire. This year, by June 6th, it was a whopping 474,000 hectares. So that's, I mean, the data is right there. And
there it is on the screen for you to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just, you can't deny it. And, obviously we've done this with fossil fuels for a long time. There was that extreme, what do they call it? The Great Smog of 1952 in London, which lasted for 5 days. And it's now estimated killed 12,000 people prematurely. Now, that happened because fog rolled in off the Thames and they got this weather inversion. So all the smog it was really cold and everyone was burning their coal-fired, fires in their homes. All the factories were still, busy. People were walking around in this pea soup of smog. And cut to it, and this weather inversion happened. So the fog held that smog down, all that sulfuric acid from burning coal. And 12,000 people died. I mean, look, we've got 9 million people dying every year from fossil fuel combustion pollution. And, back in 2015, I mean, it's, I'm just going to go through all the numbers so our listeners can hear it and get this as a big deal. So what they're saying is that 1 in 5 deaths happen because of pollution. In the US and Europe, people are lucky. It's about 1 in 10. In continents like Africa, where there's way less particulate pollution, coming from the burning of fossil fuels, it's way lower. And what you're seeing when you saw that picture of Yankee Stadium, that's particulate pollution in the air. Now it's called PM 2.5 micrometers. It's 30 times thinner than a strand of hair, and it's highly inhalable. So what happens is you're walking around, and I was horrified to see all those people in the stadium and to see those players out on the field, because you breathe in that air and it gets into your lungs, it gets into your bloodstream, and it gives you asthma, it causes heart attacks, it causes strokes. It's super dangerous. And in Syracuse, New York, their particulate matter, their air quality index was at 402. That's 8 times what's considered good. You want your air quality index to be at 50 or under. Yeah, that was Syracuse yesterday. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in. And you can sort of see when you look at it. And then also you get a feeling when you breathe it in. People on the East Coast are talking about, I'm coughing up phlegm. It feels acrid in my, nose and my throat.
The other thing that I know I've read, and we've reported on it here, is that this particulate matter, and it's so small, makes it into deep parts of the lungs. And so lung tissue is affected in ways that you've suggested, emphysema, all these other things, but also even cancers. These toxins now get into the body on such a deep level. Of course, we're bathing in this toxic brew, but when you can see the toxic brew, look at that. That's Midtown Manhattan yesterday evening versus today, so you can see it clear.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't want to be breathing in particulate pollution. You just don't. In 2015, this research came out about the what coal-fired power plants were doing in China. And what they estimated was it was 1.6 million people dying annually in China, which equates to 4,000 people per day dying prematurely or from particulate matter pollution every day. And I can, Mark, whenever I go to cite that research, I always have to go back and look, because I always think, it must be 4,000 a week. It can't be, and then I'm like, no, it was 4,000 a day. That should, we should all, like I said, what's happening on the East Coast should make people pay attention, because that's what people in these really polluted Asian cities are living in, every single day. Detroit and New York and Toronto just got bumped up into the 12 most polluted major cities, yesterday and the day before. But that's temporary, that they'll pop out of that once the the wind comes and takes all that smoke away.
Well, we've even seen it a bit today, and Tony was showing us just the difference in that particulate matter and how it's cleared. The N95 masks. I hate to get to sort of the practical. You've given us sort of the overarching issue, but you can see the smoke forecast, how it's forecast to clear. Tony's showing it to you now. Yeah. But my question is, the N95 masks are effective in the fight against COVID and I guess just transmissibility of viruses, this sort of thing. They're also effective to a degree in reducing the effects of this smoke and the harmful effects of the smoke in these cases with the wildfires here in California and back east.
Yeah, I would totally be wearing one. I'd be doing anything I could to protect my lungs. I don't want all that particulate matter, like you said, lodging in there, compromising my health.
Sure.
And yes, I think any kind of barrier that you can use, and the N95 everyone likes because, they're tight. They've got the wire above, on the bridge of your nose, so you can make them really fit snugly, which is, the thing that you want to do. I mean, yesterday, the mayor of New York is telling everyone, stay inside, stay inside. And I remember when we were having fires here in Southern California and, having to be inside, having air purifiers on, looking out and seeing that horrible sort of orange, gray, air and the sun is sort of a weird kind of, you could see the sun was behind it, but very, hazy. And you just like, I'm not going out there with my kid. I'm going to stay inside. But what about if you live in a place where you don't have security?
Where it's that way every day.
Yes,
if you live in a place where it's that way every day, there isn't, well, I'm going to wait for a couple of days and it'll clear.
Yeah.
And increasingly the planet is engulfed by this. This is interesting. I know, and we always get these, but Leon says, yet we're afraid of nuclear, which has killed under 200 people ever. We are being left behind on nuclear build-outs around the world and need to step it up. Renewables will never be base load power. Now, we talk about this from time to time. I'm just giving you some stuff out of the chat. Yeah. But I would, just because you mentioned this, Leon, and we talk about this from time to time, and I'm not really trying to pull Belinda into a discussion of nuclear and viability and versus she's done it before. I would encourage you to go back and find those videos, but we'll do it again. But Belinda, I'm not trying to pull you into some kind of major discussion about nuclear versus renewables. I think it's interesting, though, that you talk about nuclear and how safe it is, and that it's only killed 200 people ever. The threat to the nuclear plant in Ukraine now is so real that the world is looking for ways that they might intervene in the same way that it's suggested that Russia sabotaged that dam and has blown that dam open in Ukraine. Yeah. And because the kinds of explosives needed and the placement of those explosives seem that as though they would have to be strategically placed in a way that, I mean, you'd really need access to the dam. It's suggested that they may do the same thing with that nuclear plant. And I mean, again, you may view this as ridiculous. Why would they ever do that? It would irradiate an entire area. So these questions on nukes, I think, are far more complicated than, well, how many people have died from nukes? And the last thing I'll say is, and Fukushima, you should look at it, Google it, and see what's happening there. That is a disaster. And the only treatment for it now, and it's an inadequate treatment, is to pour that radioactive water into the ocean. And that's what's happening. So, again, happy to talk about nukes, but don't tell me how safe it is, because recent history and more distant history would suggest otherwise. Now, I just wanted to respond to that one comment, Belinda. Sorry.
Yeah. We've talked about the nuclear thing before, and really, it's about scalability, and Bill McKibben said a great thing about, the sun, which is the, external combustion. We've got that sun up there, all that energy coming from it. I mean, all of life on Earth is possible because of the sun and, plants and photosynthesis and, blah, 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 the whole thing. But the fact that we're now harnessing that incredible amount of energy and that, solar is ramping up so fast and wind turbines. I mean, Denmark is making so much offshore wind and onshore wind right now. They're going to start sending their electricity to the UK. Here, we're going to sell it to you. We're making more than we can use. So, and also that storage and, being able to recycle, solar panels, to recycle EV batteries. I was telling, you guys a couple of weeks ago, about one of the co-founders of Tesla, who's now got a plant in Reno, to recycle the batteries from electric vehicles, because people always talk about that. How can we get the lithium and all the, the precious rare earth metals out of them? And that's all happening. And that's going to happen faster than all these nuclear fusion plants that people are spending, so much money on, and they always go over budget and never meet their deadlines.
The ramp up period is immense, and I'm seeing it. Well, we're in a crisis. We can't take that long. Let's get it online. Well, there's nothing better. I can't imagine anything better than ramping up a nuclear plant super quickly before you can get right past all the regulatory stuff. Let's just get it going fast. I don't know. I mean, you skip over a bunch of stuff. I mean, this is how, immense tragedies happen. It has to be an interdisciplinary world that treats this problem. But I think you can't ignore certain basic facts. And similarly with batteries and some of the issues, environmental issues with batteries, there are problems there as well. So when we talk about fossil fuels and we talk about the carbon footprint and this particulate matter, it's all in a larger conversation. But I think we skip over facts when convenient oftentimes when talking about this stuff. And it happens on both sides. I think it can happen on the alternative energy side as well. There are challenges to alternative energy and getting it on the grid. And as you say, storing the energy so that, when you have a bunch of non-sunny days or seasonal days that don't favor alternative energies, you still have energy stored, energy distribution. These are all big challenges and they have to be addressed quickly. But I don't think the answer is just throw the switch on nukes. So
I you know that I kind of lean the same way, and we did several. I mean, I think we did 3 shows just talking about nuclear. The pros, the cons, all of those things. I mean, just to get off the fires and renewable energy and climate change. I mean, or no, stay on climate change. But one of the biggest things to help the planet is how we eat. If we just ate, less animal products, if we weren't so wasteful with our food, I mean, the amount of food that we're throwing away, if we went to the supermarket and went, give me the ugly vegetables, I'll take the weird looking carrot and the potato, because the way we're set up as consumers, we want these perfectly shaped vegetables and everything, shiny and deluxe looking, but we need to eat everything. We need to not be wasteful with our food. I mean, this is, the dropping our food waste and, being smarter about what we eat. Those are in the top 6 ways that we're going to lower our emissions. So it's going to require everything. And like I said, I just feel like what's happening on the East Coast is like ding dong. This is what people in Asia are living with every single day from the burning of fossil fuels. And we don't, if we've got Canada on fire to this degree, by June 8th, things are not going right, and we need to be turning the ocean liner around. And that's my
I think that's really an apt metaphor, turning the ocean liner around. There's a lot to handle and a lot to turn and a lot to change, and nothing should be ruled out. Not ruling out nuke. I'm just suggesting, as I hear you speak about all these specifics, that it has to be interdisciplinary. It has to include all of these different options. And I think these can be, to use the expression, teachable moments. I mean, this stuff gets when we say, well, it's Canada's. Yeah, I get it. It's Canada, but they're suffering from these fires on a level they haven't seen in the, post-industrial era. So you have to acknowledge that, stuff's going sideways, man. We got to figure something out. So anyway, Belinda, I thank you, for bringing information here and specifics every week. And also thank you for handling these little, I don't know, the chat stuff that's thrown into our conversation every time, because I know that kind of changes our course a little bit, but you're really great to indulge us that way. So thank you.
Oh, I think it's really important, because I think the conversation around the stuff is really vital, and to hear all points of view, I mean, it's all hands on deck, and it's all technologies and, the low hanging fruit. If you just eat meat, 1, 2, 3, less days a week, you're going to be able to.
Yeah, get the low-hanging fruit, not the low-hanging meat, is what you're saying. Maybe just every day anyway. You can find her on social media. Belinda Waymouth is Waymouth. Thank you, Belinda.
My pleasure.
Love it.
More. It's the Planet Stupid. No, it's the planet, stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.